my favorite part, probably because we've all dealt with this or have heard of this. Blood groups. If you've donated blood, biology, you talk about blood types, genotypes. It's multiple alleles as far as genetics and being passed on. After mixed success with transfusions, so blood transfusions, scientists, and this was a long time ago, scientists determined that blood has different types and only certain combinations were compatible. So long ago, a blood transfusion, if it was not blood typed and you got a blood transfusion from the wrong blood type, you know, that could lead to death of a person. So after mixed success, obviously some was successful if the blood was compatible, and if it wasn't, it was very unsuccessful. So anymore, before a transfusion is given, the blood must be typed, and it has to be cross-matched to make sure that it is going to not coagulate. So antigens, antibodies. I will want you to know the difference between this. Fairly significant part of the test will come from this entire last section. So the clumping of red blood cells after a transfusion is called agglutination, and it's the red blood cells that clot, typically just the red blood cells. Agglutination is what you do not want to happen. So agglutination happens because of the interaction between proteins on the surface, those are your antigens, antigens are on the surface, and antibodies that are found in your plasma or in the bloodstream. And we'll look at a picture that shows that also. Only a few of the antigens on the red blood cells produce transfusion reactions. It's the ABO, and this is where your blood type comes from. You have more antigens than ABO and RH, but these are the ones that cause blood to clot. So you have your ABO group, and then your RH group is your plus or minus. So I have O positive blood. So that tells me what antigens and antibodies I have in my blood. If you know your blood type, this should be, even if you've donated blood, which a lot of our students do, you get your little card, you know your blood type, this should be easily understood or transferred to you. So type A blood has A antigens. So the name of the blood comes from the antigen that's on it. So A blood has the A antigen. It will have anti-B antibodies. So that's the antibody that's produced. Type B is going to have a B antigen. That's the protein on the blood cell. And it's going to have anti-A antibodies in the blood. It does not like A. A does not like B. If you have type AB blood, you're going to have both antigens, both proteins, and then you don't have any antibodies against the A and B. So that is why AB blood is the universal recipient. AB can receive blood from any blood type, AB or O, or AB, anyone, because of the no antibodies. It's not going to coagulate, it's not going to clot with anything. Type O blood, this would be my personal type, my personal blood type. I don't have any antigens. I have no A, I have no B. However, then I have both antibodies. So I cannot receive type A blood. I cannot receive B, anything with an A or B. I can only receive type O. However, I'm the universal donor because I have both antibodies and I have nothing on my red blood cell. I can donate to type A, type B, type O. I can donate to anybody. So here's the diagram that probably gives you a better idea. idea. Type A, so this is the A antigen. It's a little protein that's found on the red blood cell. Type B is going to have the B antigen, and notice this is anti-A. They're shaped, they're colored a little bit differently. AB has all sorts of antigens on it, but nothing around it. Type O, nice clean red blood cell. That's why I can donate to anybody. AB can receive from anybody because these are going to attach to these proteins. So what happens, bad transfusions are going to cause clotting of those red blood cells because those antigens, those proteins, are going to hook to antibodies, and if they hook up, clotting or coagulation, agglutination is going to occur. So here's a table that shows it. Here's the diagram I also want to look at. So here I have antigen A. What blood type is this? A. This is A blood. So here's my anti-B. It does not like B. It only likes A. Notice this does not attach. There's no clotting because this doesn't hook to this. If I have the anti-A antibody, this would be what kind of blood? B. This is type A, this is type B. I am now putting my B blood into my type A, and what happens then is this anti-A antibody is going to hook to these proteins. And when that happens, there's clotting, there's agglutination. So if I have an A antigen, I do not want my A antibody or anti-A antibody because that's going to hook up, that's going to attach, and that's going to clot. So if I go back to my type O, there's nothing on the red blood cell. It can't clot with anything. So I can donate to anybody. Here you can just see a picture. So this would be a slide very similar to what we've looked at under a microscope. This is normal blood, what normal blood looks like under a microscope. If I have agglutination occurring, that's what it looks like. All these red blood cells start to clot and clump, and obviously that's not going to go through your bloodstream very well, and that's going to cause adverse reactions. If not caught soon enough, it could actually lead to death because the blood wouldn't go through. So the other part of your blood, besides your A, B, and O, is your RH. The RH group is named after the rhesus monkey because that's where they found it first. And the RH factor, surface protein, is on red blood cells. Then you're RH positive. If you do not have that factor, it's RH negative. So you're either going to have that factor or not. There are not corresponding antibodies in the plasma unless a person with RH negative blood has physical contact with an RH positive blood. The person then will develop antibodies for the RH factor. So unlike your blood cells, I am O positive, so I have the positive. It's not going to affect me. I'm not going to produce antibodies ever. If I were RH negative, I still would not produce any antibodies until there's some contact with an RH. So if I had RH negative and I was given positive blood, that would cause me to produce antibodies, that would cause clotting. The most common is in pregnancy or in birth. So if you have an RH negative mother, that's can possibly lead to problems. So the two ways that that contact happens is a transfusion, which anymore that should never happen because you're blood typed, you're cross-matched. You should never get a transfusion that would cause this to happen. Pregnancy, you have no control over. Pregnancy, this is very common. So if an Rh negative woman becomes pregnant and carries a fetus that is Rh positive, then she can be exposed to that positive blood during delivery. Not while she's pregnant, not while she's carrying it, but during the delivery or during labor. So now this Rh negative mom has been exposed to the positive. She's going to start to make antibodies. And remember, antibodies clot things. So now that she's making these antibodies, they could attack the blood if she has another baby. So the first baby's fine no matter what, because she has not produced antibodies. It's the second baby that it would affect, and it's called erythroblastosis, basically clotting of the red blood cells. It can be fatal. So the problem is totally, so not to be nervous. If you've donated blood and you have O negative blood, you don't need to be concerned because any mother who has the negative factor, negative Rh, is given RhoGAM, which prevents those antibodies from being produced or allows her to have many successful children after the first one. So here I can see Rh negative, there's no antigens, on her red blood cells, there's no antibodies, everything's fine. Fetus, obviously dad had a positive blood type, positive Rh factor, so the baby is positive. During childbirth, there is blood contamination, so some of that blood is going to cause then her red blood cells to start having those factors. So these red blood cells enter her bloodstream, she produces these antibodies. So then, if she had another baby and the blood entered, these antibodies could damage that baby. However, RhoGAM, it's a shot. Once a person has had a child, every woman who's negative will be given RhoGAM. That should absolutely never occur. So when a woman is pregnant, blood tests are taken. Our medicine is very preventative, and that should not be anything to worry about.